Hey guys, what's up? So Komiyachi here today again from Beijing. Slightly cold and windy today, early October. Today's topic is about whether Chinese people are afraid of sick foreigners. And I'll talk a little bit about the background of this topic, a bit about the experiences of other expats I know in China, and also my own experience here, living in Beijing. So first of all, there's been a perception in China for the past couple of years that the COVID cases which are currently happening are basically brought here by foreigners who get infected overseas, that come to China and then infect other people. And this is partly true, but it's normally Chinese people who are returning to China from overseas who are actually the ones who are infected. But that rarely gets mentioned in the news. And as a foreigner, obviously looking like a foreigner, you somehow get the brunt of that suspicion. And people will definitely assume you might be infected if you simply walk around on the streets. So that's been going on for the past couple of years. And of course now with the latest announcement by the Chinese health authorities that you shouldn't touch foreigners because then you might also get monkeypox. So even though that announcement was later changed to say that don't touch people who have recently been overseas who might be infected, the news was still out there. So Chinese people were not only supposed to fear COVID, but also to fear monkeypox from foreigners. So the question is how this has impacted the life of foreigners in China. What I would say from what I heard from other foreigners, there's definitely been an impact. I saw there was one guy on Twitter posting that he had lived in China for 8 years. He had a daughter here who was half Chinese. And he was now actually going to leave the country because of this, because even though he personally was used to it, but he said that his daughter was also being targeted by bullies in school who were avoiding her and teasing her for being a foreigner, that he finally had enough and he left the country. And it's basically a running joke that among foreigners I know here in China that typically speaking when you go to an elevator, other people will simply not go inside the elevator. They will leave it immediately because they don't want to be infected by you. And so on. I read this Twitter post this morning about a guy in Beijing who was going to a small village in Beijing with his Chinese wife and child. And when he came to the village, they were stopped by the local, let's say, party board and questioned and filmed about why this foreigner was in their village, what he was doing, where he was from, about his health record and so on. So there definitely is a lot of tension in China right now. I would say it's mainly about COVID though. It's not so much about monkeypox. I think that was more like a novelty in Western news. Actually, people here don't really care so much about it. COVID is still the big thing. But it's quite funny, like I was out with a girl from Germany a few days ago. Somebody bumped into her on the street and she was like, hey, don't touch me, I have monkeypox. So it's a running joke, like these days, like you will always have a lot of space in the subway and the elevator because people are afraid to get infected. From my own experience, I would say that I definitely notice it, and I think I also adjust myself automatically to it. So it's quite funny, like when I'm walking out in the park or even on the street, when a lot of people see me, like even from very far away, they put their mask on. So they might be walking around maskless, and then they see a foreigner and they put the mask on, even though like we pass by on the street like 4 or 5 meters apart. And this even happened when I was in the park with my kids. We were like in this boat in this little pond, and people like in other boats like 10 meters away put the mask on just because they saw me as well. So I do see this as well. I don't think they do it on purpose to kind of offend me or hurt me. I think it just happens because they might simply be precautious. I mean, for them, COVID is still a very serious disease, and they really believe that me as a foreigner I could have it. Whenever I go to an elevator, I notice that people would rather not be in the elevator I'm going to. So if they could simply stand and wait for another elevator, they would rather do that. If they have no choice, of course they will go inside with me. And what I do is I always put the mask on, so I try to make them feel a bit more comfortable with me being there. I had a really bad cough the other week, and I was going back home during rush hour, like the elevator was full of people. And the cough had been fine until that moment, but then when I got into the elevator and the air was really bad, it was very crowded, I felt this itch in my throat, and I tried to hold it back. I was like using all my energy to hold it back, not to start coughing in the elevator. But then suddenly it just broke out. I was just coughing, and I just went out the elevator at that point, and I went down by stairs, because I realized if I would begin coughing in the elevator, people would just freak out. They would go crazy. So definitely you adjust. You try to be careful about what you do around other people, and I know they don't mean anything bad by it. It just is the way it is. I'm also somehow used to it already. I lived there for 15 years. I'm used to being treated a bit differently, being looked at a lot. So it's just a part of living in China. And if you can't handle it, then leave. If you're okay with that, then you can probably find a way to accept it and live with it. It's just the way it is. So that's my comments on this topic. Thank you guys. See you next time.